Comments for Christer is given by Pauliina Louhi from Finnish Natural Resources Institute, and Pauliina has studied what are the effects of river restoration to the fish population and other nature systems.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Dear Professor Nilsson, dear Chair, and dear audience, I have a pleasure to say a few words following the Professor Nilsson's presentation, which I think was really an excellent. Thank you for giving up for that us. And although I followed your work very closely, it's always nice to hear face-to-face some sort of summary of the Swedish restorations. And in Finland, we share quite a lot about that history also. We have a common history with the forest activities, timber floating, channelization, soft restoration methods, and also the enhanced restorations, which are coming up more and more intensively nowadays. But I think we do have a little bit differences also. And into these things, we are facing them nowadays more and more, now when our restoration aim is turning more towards the smaller tributaries and the streams, and not so much in main streams anymore. And I was thinking that I would construct my presentation around those differences. Well, the time is limited, so I'm just going to bring up a couple of major things on that. So when we think about the Finland and Sweden, like I said, we share the common history with the forestry. We both have quite a high forest cover, Finland a little bit more than Sweden, but the major differences are on our natural soil type and the way how we manage the forests, I think. When you look at that map on the right-hand side there, the darker the color is, the more peatland we have. And once you compare the Sweden and Finland on that map, you find that we have a lot more of that really dark brown color compared to the Sweden, especially in northern part, and I would say western coast and central part of Finland, just roughly. And this, of course, this has consequences on aquatic ecosystems also, especially when we talk about restoration of the smaller streams. Because these are in close intact of the riparian zones and also to the forest activities. And what is really common in Finland nowadays, we renew our old forest ditches and as fast as 50,000 acres per year compared to the Sweden, which is about 4,000 hectares per year. So there is a huge difference on that. And we all know that this forest drainage improvement, it has consequences on the water. It causes sediment loading, especially some nutrient loading, changes in hydrology. So it's not so simplified question at all. And this, of course, sorry about, I selected really extreme pictures on this one. So this is, the situation is not always this bad as it looked like here. But quite often, after the forest clear cuts or the drainage, there's quite a lot of, especially the sediment, fine sand and organic material in the streams. And once you have at least 1 or 2 or even 3 meters of fine sand at the top of the actual gravel bed, it causes huge problems for the spawning fish, not to mention other biota either. And it seems that this sand is quite stable in the streams. It's really difficult to get an idea how to get this into the move. And this is something that we still need to concentrate on, how to get this sand on move and get rid of that from the streams, because in there, as this much as it comes from the water basins, it doesn't belong to these streams. This was also seen in our synthesis, what we did on these brown trout, young of the year, in boreal rivers. And this is a sort of like a meta-analysis type of the nearly 30 different projects what we've done since 1978, I think it was, until today. And as you can see over there, there's a cutting line, And everything on the right-hand side of that gives the positive results, and on the left-hand side it shows the negative results. So the overall result in here was, well, I don't know how to use that. It was a positive anyway, as you can see the marks at the bottom of the picture. So that is a good thing. We have a positive and significant sign in there. But once you look closer to these projects, quite many of them are just in the line, indicating that there wasn't really a difference after the restorations. Of course, it's only measured of young of the year brown trouts here, so there might be also the indicators on other response groups, but not in this one, which we thought was one of the most important ones. And we found some of the explanations on that. Part of that was we found the better results in the mineral soils compared to the peatlands, the rivers or the streams which drained in the peatlands, and also the size of these water systems had a difference. The medium-sized water systems did way better than the larger ones. We didn't have a chance to include the smaller water systems into these because there are not so many of the projects running on those by that time. And also, I think it's as a management point of view, we checked how was the stocking effect on this, and once there was some kind of natural population of trout in these streams, when we stocked the eggs or very early life stages on them, it had no influence on increasing populations. And once we had stocked juveniles on them, it even had a negative impact on them. So my advice would be to be really careful thinking about doing the stocking before you do it. There might be streams where we actually need it, but there might also be the projects or streams where we don't need it, do it. And also there were indicators that fishing regulations need to be done with more care. And the other thing, like you just showed us, I also had the pleasure to visit this river, Vindelälven, some years ago, and I actually saw the sites that you saw more pictures on that. On the left-hand side, there's also the restorations on top, where you use lots of natural large wood on those streams. And like you said, you have really promising results coming from there. And you use the Hartijoki method, so you paid overall more attention to these early life stages of fish than we have, because in our restorations we mostly concentrated on juveniles, and now just past perhaps 5 or 10 years we've also paid more attention to the early life stages of the brown trout or salmonids, other salmonids, but it's still coming up. We haven't had enough time on checking on those results. And the way how we have used large wood in our restorations is mostly done in 2 steps, sort of type, or this is still actually on testing phases. We added these flowing structures at the bottom of the stream, and the idea of that is try to get that sand to move downstream to flush it away. And if that works, we have added some of those streams, also the natural wood afterwards of that, and then do the monitoring and see what is the difference between these traditional type of restoration and enhanced methods and natural and still channelized sections. So these results are yet to come. Don't have them yet, and I'm really excited to see them later on. So that was a couple things what I found. Like I said, I have a really limited time to do this, but thanks for doing so, and thank you for your presentation, Professor Nilsson. And if you have any questions, please feel free.